our team, our community. This is Condors Town, and this is another Energy Condors connection. Now, here's Erik Fox and Ryan Holt.
Man, it's been a while since I've been able to see that video. I'm so happy to see it again because it's true. It's back. Hockey time in Condors Town. My name is Erik Fox here at Energy 95.3, joined on the other side of the screen by Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great. Yeah, it's a chilly, 50 degrees today, so feels like hockey weather, so we're ready to roll.
It's the first day I brought my jacket to work, so I don't have it on right now, but I'm like, ooh, I could actually wear my jackets again. You know,
I tell you this much,
we don't see.
I love quarter zips, so I'm a big quarter zip guy. So this is perfect weather for myself. So sorry for all those who want to go in the pool in October, but I'm ready.
I feel you. So we got so much to talk about. Obviously, compared to last year where we had the off season that just felt like it would never end. Now that we felt like that off season was just blinked and it's over, and we're back into the season already. So let's do the whole breakdown. Obviously, if you're your first time here on Condors Connection, we kind of break down Edmonton Oilers, and then we hit to our local team. So let's start with the Oilers. Of course, changes compared to last season. Last season, they were in a special Canadian division.
Yeah.
This year, we are returning back to the Pacific division. So we got changes on that. What other changes were going on with the Oilers in the offseason?
Yeah, I think it's great, too, that they're back in the Pacific, because that means that they're back, basically in the California division when you think about it, with the Sharks and the Kings and the Ducks. So, the Oilers will be up and down California a lot out here on the West Coast, which is great. So, they get going tomorrow night against Vancouver. NHL season kicks off tonight. A lot of familiar faces with Edmonton that were here in Bakersfield, which, we always like to highlight. Guys like Ryan McLeod and Tyler Benson. You got Kyle Yamamoto from a couple of years ago up front.
Mm-hmm.
Darnell Nurse, just got a big contract extension in the offseason. So the Oilers look strong, and I think the good part about the Oilers is how many Condors made, real pushes for jobs. A guy like Stuart Skinner between the pipes, he wasn't an easy cut, I don't think, for Edmonton. And he's a guy who, I think you might see in the NHL at some point this year and at least play some games. I mean, injuries happen, and that's usually the door that opens. But, if Stuart comes down here and has a really good start to the season, he's going to kind of force somebody's hand, because, I think he's done just about everything you can ask of him. So some Condors had some great times up there, some really good preseason action for them. And, the Oilers were good in the preseason. And, I think they're one of, a couple teams that you can kind of look at as, maybe the favorites in the Pacific. I think Vegas, might have a head up on just about anybody in the division. But I think the Oilers are kind of in that, 2, 3, 4 pack, where they're expected to make the playoffs. They're expected to push, in the postseason. This isn't let's, try to make the playoffs. I think there's an expectation of postseason, this year, and not only postseason, but postseason success. I think, last year, getting swept in the first round really left a sour taste in a lot of those players' mouths. And, the fact of the matter is they get 2 out of the 3, top players in the world. So you have to do something with them when you have them on the team. So they should.
I get you. And the other thing with the Pacific, too, I mean, a lot of the teams in the Pacific right now are in a rebuild. I mean, you hit most of the California teams, they're all in a rebuild. Another thing that's also going to be different as return to the Pacific is they have a new friend until they're frenemies with Seattle and the Kraken, which do their first game tonight. How do you think that's going to change things in the Pacific with the new team coming into play?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Seattle's a little different than Vegas was a couple of years ago. And, I think everyone's kind of expecting Seattle to kind of have the same success. Obviously, Vegas went to the Stanley Cup final that expansion year, with a cast of misfits. But if you looked inside the numbers, that really wasn't that bad of a team. And they kind of built it differently than, say, Seattle. Seattle, I think, is pushing things off 2 or 3 years down the road here. I don't think anyone's kind of expecting Seattle to do much this year. It's not a very deep roster, for Seattle. So that adds another element to it. You play Seattle a little bit more and, hey, beat up on the easier teams. But you mentioned the rebuild for a couple of organizations. But, you look at the Ducks and Zegras and Drysdale and all the host of their guys. And then, unfortunately for the Kings, Byfield got hurt because, he was tremendous with Ontario last year, and we saw him a lot. And Kaliev, and they've got kind of the next wave. I think the team that's kind of floundering a little bit in California is the Sharks right now. I just don't see what the direction is, and kind of they've got some off ice stuff as well too. So it's interesting, but it's also interesting because it impacts the Condors, and it impacts the AHL, and the guys, and I mentioned all these names. We saw them last year before. So it's basically you're transplanting what you did in the AHL, and now you're doing it in the NHL. And for the Oilers, it's basically reloading guys and putting them around McDavid and Draisaitl. For other teams, it's basically taking their AHL team and moving them to the NHL. So it's really fascinating to watch. And now we're in, what is this, year 6, year 7? Year 7. We're in year 7 of the AHL. So it's it's really cool to see. You're getting AHL guys that we've seen for years now in the NHL, and that's the coolest part about my job, and the coolest part about this organization.
Speaking of the AHL, let's go and jump over there, because obviously, just like the NHL last year was realigned for because of COVID. Also, AHL last year also had changes where Stockton wasn't in Stockton. We got some other changes going on. So we are returning to division. So we are back with our frenemies, I should say, with some of the other teams, including Stockton, which is always a heated rivalry. But you also have the addition of Abbotsford, which, sorry for all the Canucks up there. I knew nothing of where that was, so I had to look it up on a map before we went live. But how's that going to change things, adding that into the mix?
Yeah, it's a large division now. It's a 9-team division. I think 7 teams are going to make the playoffs. And there's kind of a play-in kind of round. So there's a greater emphasis on, finishing at the top of the division and, getting as many buys as possible. So the playoff format changed a little bit, but, it gives more opportunity. Does it give more chances? I don't know, because if you're the 7th place team, are you really doing much anyways? So, they just wanted it equitable across the league. But we'll see Abbotsford Saturday night for our home opener at 7:00. And, it's a team that was in Utica, New York. That's where Vancouver had their AHL affiliate for the last 8 years. Not that it wasn't working. It's a cool hockey market, Utica is, but the fact of the matter is, and we've seen this with just about every organization, is you want your team, relatively close, or at least same time zone, or same hemisphere as your AHL team. And that's the situation with Vancouver. Abbotsford's about 45 minutes away from Vancouver. It's a suburb. It'd be like Ontario to Los Angeles in the Staples Center. So they kind of have that set up now, and they don't have to worry about call-ups and things like that. They've got guys in their backyard. So a little bit of an advantage for them, but that's the nature of the business. And we're looking forward to seeing them on Saturday. We're going to see them 8 times this year. We make 2 trips up there, so going to get quite used to seeing the Canucks. And it's always fun to have new cities in the division and new food places and new everything. New reviews. I always enjoy it. And
I know where your priorities are, Ryan.
food's up there, like number 1 or 2. Like, and weather's probably in there too, but food's definitely up there. And I like going up to Canada too. We had the Winnipeg trips a couple of years ago, and those have kind of gone off the schedule just with the influx of teams out here in the West Coast. So to get back up there is pretty cool, and we'll check out some food spots.
Should be fun. Well, let's talk about we're going to be seeing Abbotsford here in Condors Town. Obviously, we're going to see the Condors in Condors Town. So let's talk about the team. Off-season changes, player-wise, also some coaching moves. What should we be looking at with things that have changed since they hoisted the cup? Yeah,
player-wise, it's really a team that kind of reloaded. I think from last year. So take the top 5, 6, 7 players offensively, and they're back in Bakersfield. I think the only person in Edmonton right now out of those top 7 scorers from last year is Tyler Benson. And he deserves to be up there because he did everything he could to get up there here in Bakersfield. He played 4 years of tremendous hockey here in Bakersfield. So Benson's up there, but guys like Marody, Griffith, Cracknell, Malone, Esposito, Hamlin. I mean, the list goes on and on. You look at all the guys from last year, plus you add in some first round, second round talent like Philip Broberg on the back end. You add in Raphael Lavoie, who was here last year. So I think the big question mark is the Condors decor, just from the fact of they haven't really played together. It's 7 guys who are highly thought of, are going to have great futures, but what kind of gelling do they do early on? So that's, I think, the biggest question mark early on. Goaltending is not a question mark. You have Stuart Skinner, led the league in wins last year. Ollie Rodrigue played fantastic when he was in between the pipes last year. He got 10, 15 games last year with the team. And then you have Ilya Konovalov, who was kind of the forgotten man, I guess, if you will. He was drafted a couple of years ago in the 3rd round and then stayed in Russia in the KHL, which is as good, if not better, than the American Hockey League, and was one of the top goaltenders there. So he comes over now, and he's still young. He's 22 years old, but what does he bring to the? So now you have 3 goaltenders who are vying for it. So I think Skinner's the clear-cut number 1, but you have options, and I think that's a good thing. And especially with the schedule being the way it is, you play back-to-backs, you're playing different cities every night. You're going to need more than 1 goalie every week. And you mentioned new assistant coach Colin Chalk as well too. Colin was he's the Paul Willett or the Paul Rosebush of the Fort Wayne Comets. One of the greatest minor league franchises going. Top 3 or 4 minor league franchises. They've been around for 80 plus years. So great to add him to the organization. He'll work with the forwards and brings a new dynamic as well too, and new voice to the dressing room. So I really like the way this team kind of just reloaded from last year.
Sorry for a little technical issue there. It's definitely going to be an interesting season, a fun season, and a season where fans can be in the arena from the beginning. If anyone wants to check out Condors Town and the puck drop, how can they get about that?
Yeah, so we have we have great mini plans available as well too, flex packs. So if you come to more than 1 game a year, your best way to get in is with a flex pack. It's 10 games or 20 games, but you can use the tickets in any kind of denomination you want to use. So if you have a family of 4 and you come out to 2 games, get a 10-ticket flex pack and you get 2 games basically for the price of at least 1, if not less than 1. So that's the way to, the best way to get in. There are some protocols, obviously, this year with, the COVID-19 mandates, stuff that's out of our control, but we want to make sure everyone's safe and healthy. And, listen, we're at the mercy of government regulations and, like a lot of businesses around town as well, too. So you have to have a proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. We do offer COVID testing out front for $25, thanks to Atlas Urgent Care. If you want to get a free test earlier in the week, you can do so by heading to Atlas Urgent Care's location. They'll give you a free PCR test, but those results take like 2-3 days. So you want to do that earlier in the week, and then you'll have your test ready for the weekend. So I know it's a minor inconvenience. I hear everybody, I read everything, I see it all. And it, believe me, it's a minor inconvenience for me too. I had to get a shot and I get tested every week too. So just to be able to have a job. So
right.
It's something that we have to go through to make sure that everyone's safe, healthy, and ready to roll. And I'm excited for opening night and seeing a banner. And I know the guys are excited to play in front of more than 1,000 people like they did last year.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm definitely going to be heading out there and checking out all the action in Condors Town. It's going to be an exciting season. I cannot wait for it. Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors, I really appreciate the time, and we'll be connecting up all season long, talking about what's going on. We'll have a chance to also chat with some of your favorite players. So just make sure you're following on both the Energy 95.3 Facebook, and I know the Condors will also be talking about it as well. So let's make it a great season. I mean, last season was a weird one. It ended with a cup, so that's always a good thing. But I'm ready for regular again. So the new normal, we'll go to that. So Ryan Holt from the Bakersfield Condors, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Erik. Appreciate you.
My name is Erik Fox, and this has been Energy 95.3.